On this episode, we travel to Omaha to learn about the Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program. Then we visit Indiana Dunes State Park. The Toni Morrison Interchange in New Orleans is not good for pedestrians. Cars parking on the sidewalk are a problem in a Pittsburgh neighborhood. Finally, we learn about Google Maps for bicycling. Stay tuned. We're in Omaha, Nebraska at the Midwest Regional Office of the National Park Service, talking with Mark Weekly. What do you do for the National Parks?
I am the chief for the National Park Service Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program in the Midwest region.
And what is the Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Program?
Well, it's really the community assistance arm of the National Park Service. We focus on helping communities, individuals, and nonprofits develop conservation areas, recreational trails. We work with a lot of small communities, big communities, state and local governments.
And how would you get involved in a community? How does the process get started?
The process gets started usually with a phone call. Somebody contacts our office and we talk to them about what their project is, and if it looks like there's a reasonably good fit, we ask them to fill out an application. There's much more demand for our service than we can fulfill, so we do have to have a competitive application process.
And when a community applies for assistance, they make it through your process, they succeed, you go to them. What sort of assistance do you provide?
One of the key things we really stress in the development of a conservation area or a recreational trail is good trails are built through community support. So that's the first place we really start, is to work with the community on developing a consensus. Rather than present a plan to the community, we develop a plan with the community. And we found that if you do it that way, you'll get a plan that will be long-lasting, that'll be supported by the community, that'll be maintained by the community, and most importantly, it'll be used by the community.
Do you have an example of a community where you've been working recently, where they've come to you and you've been able to assist them?
One of the projects that really sticks out in my mind was in Maryville, Missouri, in kind of the northwest part of the state of Missouri. A local community there had made some efforts at having a trail system put in place and working together. But they did what a lot of groups do in a community, is they come together and they want to draw lines on a map right away and develop the plan. And then they want to tell people about the plan. Well, that kind of makes people nervous, and they're concerned because it's like something's being done to them instead of with them. And they ran into some opposition, and they invited the National Park Service in. I went down there, and we held a series of public workshops where we brought the community in. Instead of telling them what we were going to do, we said, hey, what would you like to do? How can we do this? How can we develop a trail plan that works in your community, that works in your neighborhood? And we learned a lot of things. We learned that there's some one-way streets that wouldn't be good for a trail. We learned that some streets that maybe should be made into a one-way. And through working with the community, not only did we get a much better trail plan, but we also got a plan that people supported, and really the opposition and concerns were addressed and went away. And that is a kind of a typical Rivers and Trails project, where by working with the community, we develop a plan with the community that people support and buy into.
What's probably the biggest thing you're working on at the moment?
I think the biggest project we're working on is the Mississippi River Trail. This is a project trying to create eventually a trail system all the way from the headwaters of the Mississippi River to the Gulf of Mexico. In one sense, there already is a trail. There's a wonderful book published called Bicycling the Mississippi River Trail. But a lot of those are on-road trails, they're on busy roads, they're in places where it's not necessarily so easy to ride, and we'd like to develop a trail system that incorporates the national parks along the trail, the state, local, county, and city parks along the trail, and provides a route that is safe and convenient, and one that, to a large extent, if we can do it, or where feasible, off-road. Some of it will probably always be on road, but in terms of scope and scale, that's probably the biggest project we've got going on right now.
You mentioned national parks, state parks, local parks. So when you're starting out this process, you already have a lot of resources out there.
That's right, we do. And right now we're in the process of just trying to start talking to the partners. We've started with the national parks. We need to move on to the state parks and the local parks and bring other partners in. And our first job here is to not draw lines on the map, but to bring the coalition together, get everybody's thoughts, wisdom and input and try to develop an approach that's going to work for everybody and be successful along the whole length of the Mississippi River, which is very challenging. It's a very diverse river. There's very diverse communities. There's very different resources. But that's what makes it such an exciting trail, that to be able to ride something like that is just phenomenal.
We're in Chesterton, Indiana, talking with Brant Bauman, who's property manager of Indiana Dunes State Park. What's your state park like?
Well, we have a very unique ecosystem here. It's 2,182 acres of basically sand dunes, mature forest, black oak forest, beach, lakefront. It's a beautiful and diverse park, and we've got 15 miles of hiking trails here as well.
And right now, it's a cold November day. I imagine place is a little bit different on a July weekend.
Absolutely. It's we're actually the second most visited state park in Indiana, and the bulk of our visitation does come during the months of June, July, and August when the beach is open. We have a lifeguarded beach here, and that's actually fairly rare in Indiana. So I think a lot of people come here for the guarded beach and for the natural beauty that the park provides.
Now, when you get that many people coming to the park, does that create traffic issues for you?
Absolutely. As you can imagine, we have a very finite amount of parking spaces here. On a busy weekend day in July and August particularly, we generally fill our parking lots to capacity. Once that happens, we have to close the park down to our visitors that are coming in vehicles because there's simply no place left to park. So anyone who chooses to come in by bicycle or by foot or by train does have an advantage because we will still let them in. Our capacity is met due to the number of vehicles, not the number of people.
Okay, people coming in by foot, by bike, by train. What are their alternatives like? What facilities are they going to find to help get them to the park?
Well, that's what we're working on right now. Actually, they just have to walk alongside the road right now. There's a 4-lane road coming into the park, and currently they just walk alongside that road. However, there has been we've received a transportation enhancement grant, and we received that quite some time ago, but it seems to have legs now, and we've actually, we're real excited to get that moving. We're getting ready to make a multi-use hike-bike lane adjacent to our entrance road that will connect the park initially to the South Shore train station, later to the Porter County Visitor Center, and ultimately, hopefully, to the rest of the county.
And are other folks working on other trails in the county that would hook up to this so that county residents would be able to bike to the park then?
Yes, actually there is a committee that is meeting monthly about that very issue that will connect basically the south end of the county to Lake Michigan and several of the adjoining neighboring communities as well. So yes, there's an active effort in place to expand the trail system throughout Porter County.
What difference is it going to make for the park when more people switch from arriving by automobile to arriving by foot or bike or train?
Well, we spend a great deal of our time, our manpower on weekends is devoted to directing traffic to a great extent. And the more people that come to the park by train or on foot or bicycle, that's just that many less vehicles that we have to manage. It's going to provide a better user experience for a lot more people because, like I said before, most of them that come in, if they come in on foot, they're going to be able to come in once the park's capacity is met. So we'll be able to serve more people without having to increase our parking any at all.
And in terms of increasing parking, why would increasing parking be a bad thing for a park like this?
Well, this is actually a very rare ecosystem and very unique to Indiana. The sand dunes are host to many endangered and listed species. So actually, I think I can confidently say at this point, increasing parking is not an option because we realize the value of the resource and we don't want to eliminate any of this resource by building more parking lots. So the parking capacity that we have now is probably the maximum that we ever will have. Some other options that we have considered and are on the front end of talking about are possible bus routes from the visitor center once we fill up. If visitors want to come into the park and the parking lots are full, we might be able to provide a bus route, but that we're in the very early stages of those discussions.
We're in New Orleans talking with Bart Everson. What's this interchange behind us?
Well, this is actually the Toni Morrison Interchange. A lot of people think it's named after the famous author, but it's actually named after a slightly less famous Louisiana politician who apparently was very proud of pulling together the funding and whatever, making this happen. It connects, I don't know how many different arteries, the interstate, I-10, the airline highway, and a lot of different local roads and so forth, so that when you're in your car, you can get just about anywhere on this thing, in any direction. When you're on foot or on a bicycle, though, not so good. I actually work at Xavier University here. I've been riding my bike there for 9 years, but I recently moved, and now I'm even closer to the university than ever, but now I have to go through this thing to get here, and it's actually just, it sucks out my soul every time I have to go through here. It's just so unfriendly and unpleasant and dangerous that I feel like every time I do it, I'm taking my life into my own hands, and that something needs to be done.
And I'm sure the engineers that designed this were proud of what they built. How'd the process fail for pedestrians and bicyclists? I mean, why didn't it work as well for them?
That is a really good question. You can see as you go underneath, the whole thing kind of, Carrollton Avenue kind of dips down underneath this, and there are sidewalks for pedestrians on either side. And as you walk through there, you can see that some thought at least was given once upon a time to pedestrian needs. Although if you see how it's decayed down there and it's kind of crumbling and falling apart, you can see that was a long time ago indeed. But then I think as time has gone on and ramps have been added and expanded and so forth, that's been forgotten about, and that's a shame. Such that now, depending on which way I'm going, to work or from work, I'm having to navigate across 8 lanes of traffic here, I guess, at the intersection. There is really the only allowance made for pedestrians is a little sign at the intersection that says turning vehicles yield to pedestrians, because a lot of the vehicles are coming off of 1 Street, turning onto Carrollton to get onto the interstate. So this is practically an interstate on-ramp for them. And they're really not, there's really nothing to, there's no timers or anything to give a pedestrian a safe passage.
When something like this is in place, what has to happen to fix it? I mean, can it be made to work better?
I worry that that something like this doesn't get fixed until there's an accident. Unfortunately, there's actually a lot of accidents around here, but they're mostly fender benders and cars piling up on other cars. And so there's been an emphasis probably on what can we do to make it safer for the automobiles, which is obviously very important. But I worry that nothing will be done until, God forbid, somebody is hit by a car or something trying to cross this intersection as they're running for their life across the intersection. I hope it doesn't come to that. But it does seem like a very difficult puzzle when you see that there's so much just concrete infrastructure. It seems like, oh my goodness, it would be so expensive to change, to fix. Of course, that's not really the case, because as we all know, there's little things that can be done. Beyond just signs, there's things that can be done to add, like at the traffic light, a timer for pedestrians to cross. That doesn't cost nearly as much as building a new ramp.
And then how much of a problem here is the safety element, and how much is the the aesthetics, that it just sucks the soul out of you to walk through here?
Well, I think the aesthetics can't be overlooked. It is a very depressing little piece of infrastructure, in part because it hasn't been maintained, in part because, I hate to say it was a bad idea to begin with, when obviously a lot of people put a lot of effort into it. But there is something about it as you walk through it that just makes you think, goodness, is this really the pinnacle of engineering? Is this the best we can do? Surely we must be able to do better than this. So safety is an issue, but I think that the two often go hand in hand. Things that are ugly are often unsafe, and things that are unsafe are often ugly.
We're in Pittsburgh talking with Josie Ramsey. What sort of problems do you have with cars parking on the sidewalk around here?
There's a lot of times that the cars are parked on the sidewalk, forcing little kids to have to walk out into the street with on heavily trafficked roads. Also, it causes some of the elderly going back and forth to the senior rec center to have to deal with the oncoming traffic and everything. And they can't walk on the sidewalk, which is where they're supposed to be, the people, not the cars.
Why do people park on the sidewalk?
I feel people feel that the roads are too busy and everybody's in too much of a hurry, and they're worried about their mirrors or their car getting sideswiped, the mirrors being broken off. So they inch over, and the next thing you know, they're on the sidewalk, completely taking up the sidewalk. Instead of, everybody just going a little slower, taking your time. You're driving through a residential neighborhood, you drive slowly. You're not out to win a race. You're driving through a neighborhood. And I think that's why everybody thinks that they're going to save their car by putting it on the sidewalk.
And other than forcing pedestrians to walk in that street that's too dangerous to park on, what does it do to the sidewalk itself?
You have to be careful. You have your water and gas lines underneath there, and especially during the freeze and the thaw times of the year, the ground is really unstable, and so you get a heavy vehicle driving over the gas line or the water line, you're going to have a rupture. And a lot of people think, oh, we have the insurance on the lines or anything, but you still have to go through the hassle of having it tested. They have to make sure there's no other leaks that pop up anywhere. So it's still a hassle to have it fixed. It's not, it's still going to be an inconvenience to them if they have a break.
What can be done about people parking on the sidewalk?
There's some areas where if people would park, at least I would just like to see at least there's enough room for somebody to walk past, between the house or building and where the vehicle is. Some of the people, if they would, on some of the streets, would just drive a little slower. You're driving through a neighborhood, you need to realize that there's people who are walking through the neighborhood. Not everybody's going to get in their car and drive 2 blocks away. A lot of Pittsburgh is we're a walking community. All the little communities around Pittsburgh, you park your car one place and you're going to walk. You might walk 6 blocks in a circle, going different places and shopping. So you need the sidewalks to walk on. People have to realize they just need to slow down. Take time and breathe.
How do people react to being asked about, please don't park on the sidewalk?
I would have to say I've gone out and asked people when I've seen them pulling up on my sidewalk to move off the sidewalk. Most people oblige and they, get off the sidewalk. Only a few people, have tried to give me a hassle over it, but for the most part, once you point it out to someone, they realize that, they shouldn't be doing it, and so they move it. And usually they'll move their vehicles quickly.
And supposedly it's against the law to be parking on the sidewalk?
That's what I believe. In Pennsylvania, it is against the law to park on the sidewalks. It's a state law.
So, any help from law enforcement in all this?
No, they don't. The police seem to encourage it. especially on some of the streets. If parking in the street completely really slows down the flow of traffic too much, they don't want people to park completely in the street. They encourage them to pull up on the sidewalks.
And is this part of a larger problem then? Is parking on the sidewalks a symptom of a deeper problem?
I think it's a concern that people have become too focused on themselves and not with everybody as a whole. When you knew that there would be people walking up and down your street, you made sure your sidewalk was swept or cleared, and you wouldn't even think of putting a car on it. Now nobody cares about anybody else. Everybody's just thinking about themselves. So that's what I think it's a symptom of. It's a symptom of the me syndrome.
We're in Washington, D.C., talking with Scott Shawcroft with Google. What was Google doing in Washington today?
We were launching biking directions and a bike layer for Google Maps.
And how would bicycling directions differ from driving directions or walking or transit or whatever else you have on there?
Right, so we have walking and public transportation in addition to our driving directions. And biking takes into a variety of aspects into account, including whether it's going to be a hill and how long you have to pedal on the hill, whether there's a bike lane or a dedicated bike trail that you could take as opposed to a major road. And then if only we know about the road structure, we'll keep you off main roads on less trafficked roads.
What sort of process went in? What sort of feedback did you get from bicyclists to decide what should be included in the map and the algorithms?
Right, so the project was first started by Andy Schwerin up in the Seattle office, and he's an avid biker. So he really created the heart and soul of the directions algorithm, and we've refined it with the feedback from Googlers in our internal testing process.
And when you go and add something like this to your existing Google Maps, how do you do that? What sort of software are you using? What's going on?
There's a lot of components to it, and it's a lot of collaboration between a lot of different teams. John and I, from directions and doing the layer itself, we were kind of the core for a long time, and then it took some other people to come in and kind of glue the whole thing together and then get it pushed to production. And we were very, very happy that it all went off without a hitch and we got everything done. It's a lot of collaboration amongst a lot of smart people.
So someone goes to maps.google.com.
Mm-hmm.
They're thinking about biking somewhere. What are they going to find when they get there?
Right, so if they want to bike somewhere, if they have a particular start and end in mind, they can click Get Directions and type the first place and the second place in, and then select from a drop-down box bicycling, and then hit Get Directions. It will do two things for you. It'll give you directions for bicycling, and it will also change the way the map looks to highlight the biking features of that area that you're looking for directions in.
If I didn't have particular places I wanted to go, but I just wanted to know what the bicycling features were in my town, could I get that without asking for directions?
Yeah, you totally can. What you can do is you can search for where you're looking for. Like for me, it would be Seattle. And then there's a More menu in the top right. You click that, a drop-down will show up, and bicycling is under there. That will change the map just like directions will, but it won't be for any particular set of directions.
And this is something new. Undoubtedly, there are going to be little glitches.
Yep.
I look for directions, and you got something wrong. You missed my favorite route. How can people give you feedback then?
Yeah, so we're really excited to launch this product because it means we can iterate a lot faster than we have before. To make the Google bicycling directions just as good as we can possibly get it based on the local knowledge that everyone at the summit here has. So there's two ways that you can give us feedback, one that is coming and one that you can do currently. if you pull up the map, there's a report on problem link in the bottom right. So if a trail stops and ends, but it should be continuous, you can drag the marker there and then type an explanation of what's wrong about it. Or there's a road with a bike lane, but we don't show that. You can do the same thing where you drag the marker there and type it in, and we'll work on getting that onto the map. We try to do it within 30 days, but that's not always the case. And then what we're also announcing today is that we will make MapMaker available in the U.S. in the future. And that allows you to do much more intricate things with the map, such as drawing trails where we don't have them at all, and marking it with the right bicycling attributes so that it will get into directions and into the map itself.
And you're undoubtedly dealing with a lot of data, getting all these bike paths and everything else on. How many cities have you been able to do so far, and what's it going to take to get the whole country in there?
Yeah, so the data scale problem to me is just what's so interesting about maps. I'm relatively new to the team, and I discovered in school actually the complexity and the visual complexity of maps. It's just fascinating to me. Right now for bicycling, we have 150 cities, and we also have coverage from rails to trails for other places outside of those cities in the U.S. We're only in the U.S. now, but you may see it show up in other countries soon.
So do you ride a bike?
Yes, I do. I was really excited to work on this project because I commute to work on my bike like 4 to 5 days a week is my goal, so like 80% of the time. It's a quick 2 miles. It's almost entirely flat, and it's mostly on a separated trail, but I like it, and I find that it wakes me up in the morning and is really a great way to start the morning. I'm not a morning person, but just getting the fresh air is really, really nice. And Google is also very good about promoting it. They have in our parking garage, we have a cage where we can all hang our bikes, and it's secured so we don't have to worry about our bikes. And they do a really great job at promoting the use of alternate transportation to work.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.